Are you joking? Is this a joke? Snow lands on top. Snow lands on top. Snow lands on top. Hello fellow book nerds, this is Gabby and today I'm coming at you with a very exciting video. We're gonna discuss The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I literally finished this bad boy about an hour ago. I read this in 24 hours and I'm ready to share my thoughts with you. I'm gonna start with some non-spoilery thoughts so you can stay along if you haven't read the book yet. Don't worry, I'm gonna let you know when the spoilers start and all of that. First of all, this is a thick boy, okay? It's thick.
Damn, boy. Damn, boy, he's thick, boy!
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good book. I liked where the plot was taken, I liked where the characters were taken, and I think that Suzanne Collins' writing comes through once more because it was really easy to read. There was a part of the book towards like the third section of the book, because there are 3 sections of the book, so towards that section I felt a little bit more iffy and I wasn't as engaged, so there was a part of the book that I felt quite bored by. How do I feel about it as a Hunger Games prequel? I actually think it was really good as a prequel. I don't know about the whole President Snow story. I don't know if he felt like a different character because I feel like we never got to know President Snow that much. We knew more of him, we never knew his actual intrinsic motivations, we never had a proper conversation with him except for a couple fleeting ones, like he wasn't even in the first book at all. So despite the fact I feel like more or less who he is, he's still quite a removed figure from us. So when I was reading this book, it was a bit hard for me to say whether he was the same person in this book as he was in the other book, or if he had the potential to become the person that he is finally. And I think he definitely did. I think his character definitely has the potential to become the President Snow that we know. So I think that characterization was good. But I think what was even more cool and powerful as a prequel was the world, because I did not expect this to be such a different world. So in this book we follow President Snow when he is doing his mentorship for the Hunger Games. So this is actually the first time ever that the Hunger Games have mentors, and they're not from district or past winners, they're actually capital born children who go to the academy, which is like their high school, I guess. And the book is taking place on the 10th Hunger Games, so that means it's 64 years before the Hunger Games that we know. And this world is so much different than the world that we know, but at the same time it's such a good predecessor. When I was reading Hunger Games, I was asking myself a question: how did you get to this point? How is, then Katniss at some point had a thought, how do people agree to a bunch of children being put in an arena and telling them that they have to kill each other and then watching it as a sport? How are people okay with it? And this book kind of answers that question. People are not okay with this. In this world, the Hunger Games have only been going on for 10 years. When you hear the pitch for Hunger Games is a bunch of children in a forest trying to kill each other, it's basically what happened during the first couple Hunger Games. This is 10th Hunger Games, and literally what's happening, they got an old stadium, they put 24 children in it, they throw some weapons, and that's it. The children just kill each other. The game makers actually have a problem because no one wants to watch it. Who wants to watch children slaughter each other? During this time, there's nothing really for winners. The whole winner gets a lot of money and their district gets money. That wasn't a thing, and betting isn't a thing, and even mentors weren't a thing, and the big celebrity status that the winners get during our Hunger Games isn't a thing. So there's just such a contrast between how people right now in the capital look at Hunger Games and how they looked 65 years in the future, when it's just this enormous spectacle where people get so swept up into it, and districts still see it as a barbarity, what it is, a barbarity, but that's because districts are directly impacted by it. But the capital in the future has no direct negative consequence for it, so the way they portray it is so much different. This book, we are just 10 years after the war, and it's really been interesting to see how big the impact of the war was. It was actually terrible for the capital, and capital people had to resort to cannibalism. Even the Snow family, which was once revered, fell into like terrible poverty. So I absolutely adore how this book made me see how we could get to Hunger Games that we know. Another thing that I thought was really interesting how it was portrayed was that the people of the capital were really quite normal. They felt like normal people, no caricatures. They weren't like super extravagant in their clothing. Their speech was totally normal. Their perception of the world seemed quite normal, except for that they think districts are like animals in a different species. But you know, within reason, they were normal. Because when you read capital people from actual Hunger Games trilogy, I mean, they are a caricature of human. They are so removed from what we know to be normal, acceptable behavior that they just feel like they're not real. But in this book, they're completely real. And I think that's so cool as well, how they portray that. It took many years for the people of capital to become what they are, and that this is the years of prosperity, like enormous prosperity, enormous wealth, enormous privilege that allowed them to become caricatures that they are. Because these people of capital right now, they just survived the war, they just survived enormous hunger and pain and fear. And it makes so much sense because these people right now in the capital during the 10th Hunger Games are so much closer to our actual society timeline wise. This whole book just shows how much awareness and knowledge and care Susan Collins has for her own world, because she clearly sees where she's ended up and how they would even get there. And I think that shows something really, really cool. I was worried when I was going into this book that would fall into a prequel trap that many entities fall into, where they feel like because it's a prequel they have to lean on the nostalgia so much and they have to explain everything we like from the main series, and they have to give a backstory to everything. So a great example for this would be the Solo movie, where it's like a prequel for Star Wars, and it's a backstory of Han Solo. I haven't seen the movie, but I watched a lot of reviews, and a lot of them said that every little thing they felt like they had to give a backstory to. So this was a danger I thought that this book also had a potential of falling into. I don't need to know every single little piece of Hunger Games, how it came to be, but I feel like this book really tipped the scales well, and it really balanced that I'm gonna tell you backstory for this and this and this, but I'm gonna keep some things vague because not every single thing happened within a 2 months, 6 months, or a year in this story. The way it was written as well, the chapters actually, when the chapter ended, you know, normally it's like a new scene, a new thing, but Susan Collins wrote it like the chapter ended and the chapter continued right away, made it so easy and so fast and so addicting to read. And I think this book could have been smaller because 500 pages is quite a lot, and all the Hunger Games are like 320, so really this had like 200 extra pages, and I wasn't expecting that. And when I got the book I was like, why is this so big? So I feel like there could have been some trimming down done and some less meandering, because I don't really cared about all the things that happened, and everything felt so developed that I just felt like we could, you know, get the ball rolling. Excitement of Hunger Games is that it's an action book, and there's a lot of high tension situation, really fast paced, and this book didn't have that aspect of the character being directly in the arena. So for that reason, I feel like it dragged a little bit more. There was so much less tension in the actual events of what happened because the stakes were lower, I would say. So for that reason, it was dragging a little bit. All in all, I would recommend this book. I think even if you're not a big fan of Hunger Games, or you never read Hunger Games, you could read this. There's no spoilers. Yeah, no, there's no spoilers for the main series, so I think this could be read as a standalone if you wanted an interesting piece about like human morality. This book is really well written, it's addicting, and it makes you go faster, especially because of the way that chapters are written and all that kind of thing, but at the same time is way less fast-paced than Hunger Games. So if you are into this really fast-paced, really high stakes, really high stress situations kind of narrative, then maybe you will be a little bit disappointed by this one. Moreover, I feel like Hunger Games had so much to say in terms of themes, in terms of what it was saying about humanity, what it was saying about society. So I feel like this book tried to do the same thing, and it has themes of chaos, control, and power, but they're definitely less fleshed out and they're definitely not as pronounced, which I was surprised about, because I feel like President Snow is a perfect person to have a really in-depth conversation about power and control. And it was there, but I feel like it had way less impact on me than Hunger Games. If you watch my Hunger Games reading vlog, I love that series so much, and I think it just has so many nuanced conversations. And this book, although having some, and at times from some, I think falls way behind Hunger Games. This book has a complicated main character, and I enjoyed that, and I enjoy more really great characters and that kind of conversations. So I think for those reasons, it's worth checking out, and I would give it a shot. Alright, that's it, you guys, for the non-spoiler section. So we're gonna move into spoilers. So if you haven't read it and mind spoilers, you should be leaving in 3, 2... Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the important things. Snow lands on top is the stupidest saying I have ever heard in my life. Are you joking? Is this a joke? Snow lands on top. Snow lands on top. Snow lands on top. You have failed me. I really think they really wanted to sell this saying. It kept cropping up in the most ridiculous times, and at the end when it's like, well, he forgot that snow always falls on top. I think it was supposed to be menacing, but I couldn't take it seriously. I'm sorry, it's ridiculous. It's so funny. How is this a villain I'm supposed to take seriously if his saying is snow falls on top? No, but seriously, tell me, if you didn't mind the whole snow falls on top, because I did. I minded. I thought it was stupid. And then all the snow puns. All the snow puns. It's just no, thank you. Just no and thank you. Now let's jump into some actual things. Like characters. Okay, Snow. Like I said, I think she did a fairly good job at making him realistic. So we were supposed to have this person as our protagonist. So technically we're rooting for him, but we know that he's gonna become a tyrant who is just following the status quo so dearly to his heart. Definitely a child killer. So I think it was a hard job to make him realistic, to make him likable enough for us to follow him, but despicable enough to believe that he would do all those things he did. And like I said in my Hunger Games vlog, I really like Snow as a villain or antagonist. I really like him. I think he was really well portrayed. I think his dynamic with Katniss is really, really good. It's prime YA. There's so little good villains like that that really play off the protagonist. How is he as a protagonist? Weirdly likable, but also it was there all along. He is vain, he is arrogant, he is selfish. His first thing is self-interest, and this crops up so many times, but at the same time I felt sometimes I just had no clue what his deal was. He would betray Sejanus or think about how he's so resentful of him, or how he doesn't like him, or how he's gonna get himself killed because of this. But then at the next time, I'm like, no, I think he genuinely likes him, and I think he actually wants to support him. And he just flip-flops so much sometimes that I didn't really know what this was about. What I'm thinking this is about is that he lies to himself, telling himself he's this noble person who would never do anything bad, but when it comes to it, that's not who he is. He will do anything to get ahead, and he will get rid of anyone in his way, and his interest comes first. And I think that's his actual personality. He is self-interested, he is proud, and he will always take care of himself first. So I'm taking his flip-flopping more as he's kidding himself into thinking he's a good person, rather than it's poor characterization. So I'm making this decision. I think that's what the author was going for, is like he thinks he's way better than he actually is, so that's why he will do something despicable and then explain away to himself, or like tell himself that he feels bad, where he doesn't feel bad because it furthered his goals. I don't know if I liked him as a protagonist. I kind of did, I guess. I think that he was presented well enough for me to know that he's awful and kind of root for him, although I never really felt that deeply for his story, and neither did I for the love story very much. It was on purpose how quickly he thought he fell in love, and then he was flip-flopping every 5 seconds. He would be like, I love her, she's my girl, she's my girl, she's my girl, until 5 minutes later, when things got hard, he'd just be like, okay, that was just some weird infatuation I had, never mind that, oh, okay, bye-bye. I mean, I was not a fan of the romance anyway, because I knew it wasn't gonna end well. I knew he wasn't sincere anyway. But then, really made me like, oh no, was when he said he felt trapped here on base while this is Lucy Gray, while she could freely roam the night. In some ways, it had been better to have her locked up in the capital, where he always had the general idea of what she was doing. So this boy tells me that it was better for the woman he supposedly loved to be locked in an arena or a zoo where she could die any second because he knew where she was. Okay, I never was a fan of this ship, but now it's dead. It's sufficiently dead. Lucy Gray obviously is a girl from the District 12 whom Snow is assigned mentorship over. So actually, when I was reading Hunger Games, I noticed that they said that there are 2 victors from District 12, and they talked about Haymitch, and they never mentioned the other person. So I like that it was something that was established in the main trilogy that we build upon. I think that's what a prequel should do, really. It should build upon what was already established, or at least foreshadowed, that kind of thing. That being said, because I knew there was a District 12 winner before Haymitch, whose name we didn't know, I was like 99.999% sure it was Lucy right after we got introduced to her, so I wasn't really worried for her dying or anything. Lucy Gray as a character, I never really fell in love with, if I'm being honest. She just felt like, you know, when you say manic pixie dream girl in like movies or whatever, she kind of felt like that. She felt really so weird. Even her name, Lucy Gray, and all her siblings, or her cousins, they're not siblings, all of them have like double names. One is a caller, one is like a ballad. It just feels really unreal, I guess. She just felt a little bit like an idea more than a person. I don't know what it made at the end of him saying all these things like, oh, she's no lamb, she's no innocent. Is this another way for him to delude himself, or is there something to it? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to think about it. Whether it's just him adding more menace to her to feel better about himself, or if there actually is something there in her, because the way she was introduced was a little bit ridiculous to me, especially when you compare it to like Katniss's introduction during the reaping. Well, she was introduced during the reaping, but her behavior during the reaping. And then you get this girl who just randomly went on stage and started singing, and everyone was singing with her. It just felt a little bit like a joke, because we never really found out anything about her in terms of her motivations, her beliefs, her that kind of thing. We really learned only the bare minimum. So I think she as a character could have been done a little bit more realistically, because I feel like in the original Hunger Games, all the characters were quite realistic. Even people of capital like Effie, who were ridiculous, they made sense. And then this girl just kind of doesn't seem like a real person to me, so I didn't particularly like her. Then we have Seanos, whatever his name is. He's just like such a too pure for this world kind of being. I understand his struggle, understand his motivation, understand his internal conflict, so I think he was a good character in terms of characterization, that kind of thing. I understood him perfectly. I feel bad what happened to him, but I never really fell in love with him either, because I feel like because I was in the head of Snow, I never could really connect to people, because he didn't connect to people. He just connected to what they could give him. And I feel like that's another thing about this book. The only person who I really felt like I understood and knew was Snow. And in the original Hunger Games, I feel like I understood so many of the secondary characters because of the way that they interacted with Katniss. Cinna, Effie, even her freaking prep team, Haymitch, Peeta, even Gale, even though I hate him, Prim, like, I understood them so well, and I connected to all of them, except for Gale because I hate him, but even him I kind of connected to. I just loved them and connected to them so much, and I understood them so much, and I feel like this book is lacking that. Secondary characters, I don't know, I think there's a point in the book where Snow says that there might be a little bit too much music in his life, and I agree. There was too much music in my life when I was reading this book. When every other chapter has like a song. I hate reading songs. I cannot really imagine the melody in my head. I don't like poems, so I don't like going through a song and trying to decipher what it means. And then I don't need him going through it, deciphering it for me either, because that was weird. Like I said, there was so many less themes than I actually expected from this book. So obviously there was a big theme about the 3 C's. The chaos, control, and I forgot the third one. Chaos, control, and power were really big themes in the book. Like, we were kind of beaten over the head with it, which I thought it was a little bit on the nose. Really gonna make him write an essay about why you need Hunger Games to control the world, and then his whole thing was like, without control there's gonna be chaos and we're gonna all kill each other in the like actual trilogy. There could a bit more subtlety there. Otherwise, what was the theme? Like, do anything to get ahead, don't trust boys, get yourself a friend whose mom makes good cookies. So I said that there was a part when I thought that it was way too drugging, and that was basically everything in District 12. I just did not care about his time in District 12. There was just so much going to singing, and then him being jealous, and then they went out twice, and then just him in the barracks, and him thinking, like he's gonna get caught. It was really boring. I wasn't actually enjoying it very much. That's when it started dragging for me. I think the first bits was quite interesting. I liked it. Then even in the arena, I was like, man, this is boring. They're just hiding in a hole. The actual Hunger Games trilogy, my favorite parts was definitely the arena, where it was just so stressful and you had to be so intricate and go with Katniss through the motions of thinking it through. And I love that so much. And here the arena was the most boring part there was. You just saw people on the screen clunking each other once in a while, and they hid in the tunnels. We saw Lucy Gray like 3 times, and everyone just died of rat poisoning, and everyone was dead beforehand anyway. It was just such a lame Hunger Games, and I know it's kind of the point because they had no clue what they're doing. Like, they were so bad. Even the drones were like so pathetic, and it was on purpose. I understand that, but still, reading about it was a little bit boring. He was like, I was there another day, nothing happened, peace out. I don't care about Snow as a person enough to just hang out with him doing nothing. I want him to be doing something interesting. So the whole ending and that ending like sequence kind of reminded me of like a domestic thriller where you actually realize that the boyfriend or the girlfriend's a psycho, just like with a knife and just like a maniacal look in their eyes, just like, honey, back come here, I'm not gonna hurt you.
Here's Coriolanus.
I kind of liked it at the same point. I think that just showed how quickly he flipped, man. I'm just gonna go out holding a rifle and go look for her, but I'm not gonna hurt her. It's not like she's the only one who knows my secret and I'm going back now. I'm sure she'll understand it. It was kind of funny. Another thing, Tigress as a character, she does very little. I was really excited to see more of her because I feel like she's such a fascinating character. In the last one, like, why does she look like a tiger? Why does she barely speak? Why is she like living in a weird place? Why would she betray her cousin that we find out she loved so much? And we really barely see her, and then she kind of makes veiled references to maybe selling herself for money to like help him. I guess that kind of ties into how her character later felt quite used, because she would give so much of herself for the games and she was the stylist in the games, and then they just got rid of her and discarded her once she became less valuable. So I guess this shows us that she was so valuable to Snow, but then probably when she lost her value to him, he just discarded her, even though she sacrificed so much to him. But I still feel like she could have done a little bit more as a character, and she was a little bit. And then with the addition of his grandman, I guess that was to show how he had so much pressure from his maternal figure, I guess, to be perfect and to uphold this name, even though he had nothing to his name. Literally, he had no money, nothing, but he still had to uphold this like image, and how important that was to him, especially because his grandma was like, he's gonna be a future president. Well, she doesn't know half of it. I don't know where my thoughts are. I'm really confused about this book because I was enjoying it when I was reading it, and I think it's a well-written book, but it has its flaws, like its secondary characters and some boring parts and some underdevelopment. But I think all in all, it could have been worse. I feel like we all kind of took a deep breath in when it was announced that the prequel was coming, and took an even deeper breath in when we find out it's about President Snow. But I think the execution was good. I think it showed forethought, even if I didn't enjoy the story itself as much as I probably could. The story itself was, to me, secondary about seeing how cool the transition of the world was, and how the beginning of this world that we know what it becomes. I just found it so fascinating. And I had this weird thought when I was thinking to myself that President Snow made Capital prosperous. And I know he didn't make the whole planet prosper. Obviously, the districts were hurt immensely, but they were hurt right now too, and somehow Capital prospered. So I'm kind of curious to see what the story is. That's it for my review. I think it's gonna be a long one, even though I was really worried I would have nothing to talk about. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know, how did you like it? Did you think that it was worth the hype? It was worth the money? Was it worth the waiting? Let me know in the comments, and if you could like, subscribe, and click the bell notification, that would be so great. It will help me out so much. But that's it for my video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!